Good morning, Central. Let me get my notes ready here. Okay, are we ready for this? This is day 5 of quarantine schooling, whatever that means. I keep hearing weird rumors about when school is coming to be back. Right now, as far as we know, we got this week and then one more week of this. Then you guys get spring break. Teachers will leave you alone for a week, and then we're back in regular school, I hope. Hey, Jatavion, good afternoon. My day's pretty good so far, I guess. Ms. Hale is going to be joining us today through the chat here, and she's going to start doing weekly videos also. So I'm going to talk today about how the Odyssey gets started, and then Ms. Hale is going to come in. I think Wednesday she's going to go live, and I'll give you guys her information too, and she's going to talk about the characteristics of an epic and how that applies to the Odyssey and help you guys work through that text. So, hey, look, there's Ms. Hale right there. Okay, the unit we're starting is called Journeys of Transformation. So the idea is to think about how a journey transforms you and why we take journeys. And the big text is the Odyssey, and it's about a giant journey. So let's look at what an epic is, because I know I had some questions already about what an epic is, and a lot of the old epics were stories of journeys, and that's why we're looking at the Odyssey. An epic has to be a narrative poem. They did poems because, like the guy that wrote the Odyssey, he was blind. He didn't write that himself. He came up with the story, and he wrote it as a poem and had it memorized and would pass it down orally. The Bible, most of the stories in the Bible were all poems that were passed down orally before they were ever written down. So epics are supposed to be narrative poems. Narrative just means it's telling a story. The most common definition of an epic is that it has, oh God, Will's here. It has a vast setting. Vast means really big. And I don't mean like it's a big city like New York. I mean, for it to be an epic, it has to cover a lot of ground. Odysseus, in the Odyssey, he starts in the city of Troy, and he has to sail back home to Ithaca, which is like 3 weeks by ship, and it takes him several years because he accidentally gets caught in a storm because he angers Poseidon. He ends up going all the way to Africa and goes back up to Italy, and then some random islands that we still don't even know which islands they are today. So the setting has to be huge. He has to travel a great space of land for it to count as an epic. The language in an epic is going to be elevated, and you'll see that while you're reading. It'll sometimes feel a little bit like Shakespeare because the authors intentionally try to use, it's huge, William. The authors intentionally try to use very flowery language, a lot of metaphors and similes and everything. You'll also see a lot of gods and or supernatural creatures in epics. And we see both of those in the Odyssey. He angers Poseidon in the very beginning, and it's Poseidon that is harassing him all the way through his journeys as he's trying to get home. The one thing you should never do before you go sailing is piss off the god of the ocean. That's just a stupid move on Odysseus' part. The last part, though, the last characteristic of an epic that I need you guys to be aware of is that it has to be a cultural hero. Odysseus is not just some guy. He's not even just a war hero. He is, in the ancient Greek mind, he is the perfect man. So everybody in ancient Greece was supposed to try to be like Odysseus. And that's what makes him so important, because he is culturally significant. So pay attention. Anytime he comes to an obstacle, comes across a new challenge, pay attention to how he faces that challenge and how he deals with it, because everybody's supposed to try to be more like Odysseus. All right, so let's talk about where it starts. It starts with the Trojan War, right? And you should have been reading about the Trojan War last week. Some guy kidnapped some other dude's wife and ran off with her, and that other dude, King Menelaus, chased him down and put together an army of 9 separate kingdoms. I think it was 9. I might be making that number up. Put together an army of several Greek kingdoms, and they all attacked this one city, and that's the city of Troy. And the walls around Troy were so huge and so strong that no army had ever, yes, I said huge again, just for you, William, that no army had ever penetrated those walls, and that is where Trojan condoms get their names. So this Trojan War, they get this army together, and they lay siege to it. The entire army camps around the city of Troy for 9 years. For 9 years, they did nothing. The entire story of the Iliad is how the Trojan War ends, and it's just in that last year. And that last year, Odysseus comes up with the plan of the Trojan horse, and they penetrate the walls of the city and are able to attack it from the inside, and Troy dies. And then everybody goes home, and it shouldn't be a big deal. Everybody just sails home and is happy. But Odysseus, him and his army take another 10 years to get home. So imagine Odysseus' wife. He's like, honey, I've got to go to war. She's like, okay, I'm pregnant, so I don't know why you're leaving me like this, but okay, I guess if you have to. And he leaves. And he's gone for 10 years of war, and the war finally is over, and he's going to sail home to see his 10-year-old son, meet his son for the first time. So he rushes home. Actually, he doesn't rush home. That's a lie. Pay attention to the Odyssey, because he doesn't rush home. But he heads home. Takes him another 10 years to get home. So by the time Odysseus finally meets his son's going to be 20 years old. His son is a grown man, but he has not yet taken over as the man of the house or anything, which is a big thing back in Greek society. And so there's this, as Odysseus comes home, you'll need to pay attention to that interaction. So be aware of that timeline, that this whole story that we're reading, the Odyssey, is a 10-year-long story. And keep that in mind as you are reading. The other thing, the last thing I want you to pay attention to are the gender roles. It's very focused on Odysseus, and everybody talks about Odysseus, what a great hero he is and all that crap. Look at the women in the story. Look at every single female character you encounter. And even pay attention to the gender of the monsters you encounter, because a lot of the monsters he faces are women. And so a lot of the way women are portrayed in this says a lot about ancient Greek culture. All right? So that gives you something to think about. That should give you a sort of a frame to keep in mind while you're reading it. Yeah, Calypso is the one girl. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's look at some questions. COF Reaper, what does that mean? Reaper wants to know why this is the only class we have to do so much work, bruh. It's about 45 minutes of work a day. If you're working more than 45 minutes a day on English to keep up with it, then contact me or Miss Hale, because you're struggling somewhere, and we would love to help you out. Are there any other questions as you were getting into the Odyssey? Any questions about the Trojan War? Any questions about Odysseus? Or while we are reading this story? No questions, Central? All right. Well, like I said, Miss Hale will be on here Wednesday. She'll do a little bit more talking about the epics and how it applies to the Odyssey, help you guys through that story. Those aren't questions. Okay. If you have anything else you need, email me, Miss Hale. Make sure you sign up for Remind. If you're in one of my classes, sign up for the Discord server, and then you can chat with me live, and I can walk you through anything you need. All right. Real quick, before you leave, I'll answer this last question. Jatavia, I wanted to know what Odysseus did to Poseidon, and you haven't gotten to that part yet. At the beginning of the story, remember, epics start in media res, which means in the middle of things. So when the Odyssey starts, he is 1 year away from home. All right, 1 year away from home. And then he gets to the next stop, and somebody says, Odysseus, where have you been for the past 9 years? And he has to rewind. You saw Deadpool, the same kind of thing. Starts in the middle, and then it rewinds with a flashback to tell you what happened. So the first rewind is going to tell what happened. And Odysseus did something to Poseidon's son. And that's the part that really upset Poseidon and got the whole trouble started for Odysseus. And that's how he ended up in Africa. I'm not restarting them away. You are welcome to restart this video. This will be saved. I'll send it out and remind, so you can come back and rewatch it anytime you need. All right, you guys take care.